Uf. So I think we can begin. So I'm gonna make an introduction real quick, and then you can start sharing your screen. Is that okay?
That's okay. Yes. Yeah, that's okay.
Kính chào anh chị và các bạn tham dự livestream sự kiện số 7 với nội dung là BIM tại thị trường Đức do giáo sư tiến sĩ Han Joachim trình bày. Ông ấy đến từ khoa kỹ thuật và quản lý xây dựng của Đại học Weimar. Một số cái hoạt động nghiên cứu chính của ông ấy có liên quan đến mô hình thông tin công trình, cũng như là các cái nội dung về lựa chọn nhà thầu, công trường, kiểm soát việc thực hiện và quản lý dự án, cũng như là mô phỏng các cái quy trình xây dựng 4D, vân vân. Thì hôm nay giáo sư sẽ trình bày với chúng ta những cái nội dung về tác động của BIM đối với nền công nghiệp, cái sáng kiến của chính phủ Đức, cũng như là các cái nội dung về dự án thí điểm, rồi việc triển khai BIM cho đơn vị tư vấn. Cái phần thứ hai sẽ nói về cái nội dung tác động của BIM trong việc số hóa giáo dục, nhưng mà đưa cái nội dung BIM vào trong chương trình đào tạo như thế nào. Và phần cuối là phần câu hỏi và thảo luận. Thì sau đây thì xin phép là giáo sư sẽ trình bày bằng tiếng Anh và ban tổ chức sẽ dịch lại. So please, you can share your screen now.
Yes. Okay. Just a moment. So that's it. You can see. Hello, everybody. There, I think there. Now you have it. I think. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to my webinar about building information modeling in the German market. And let's just use the time for some hopefully valuable information within the next 1.5 hours. I will go.
Yeah, so we will do bit by bit, so I can translate. Because,
Okay.
Yeah. Thì giáo sư chào mừng anh chị và các bạn đến với cái webinar này, và hy vọng là chúng ta sẽ sử dụng trong khoảng 1 tiếng rưỡi nữa để trao đổi và chia sẻ những cái thông tin hữu ích.
Okay, I will have 3 parts. One is very short. The second will be the next 30 minutes, and the third one we will do after 15 minutes discussion, and then have another 30 minutes for the part 3.
Thì bài trình bày của giáo sư thì có 3 phần. Phần 1 thì sẽ là giới thiệu ngắn gọn, sau đó thì trong khoảng độ 30 phút sẽ nói về cái tác động BIM trong ngành công nghiệp, và đúng 30 phút cuối thì là nói về BIM cũng như là số hóa trong giáo dục. Hello?
there is a connection loss from the German side.
Somehow there. Okay, next, third one is the European governments. Almost none company is state-owned in the construction industry.
Professor Han, we just have a connection problem. We lost it for some.
Yes, I had this impression. Yes. Do you have this? Do you have? We have 22 participants anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask them if we need translation because apparently. Alo, mọi người cho hỏi là có cần phải dịch không ạ? Hôm nay trong cái webinar của chúng ta thì mọi người đều nghe được tiếng Anh cả chứ ạ? Có ai cần phải dịch không ạ?
Theo mình thì không cần phải dịch.
Dạ vâng. Nếu vậy thì em sẽ nói với giáo sư là sẽ không cần phải dịch và giáo sư có thể là trình bày liên tục và không ngắt quãng nhé. Rồi, cảm ơn mọi người. So Professor Han, apparently people can understand English, so I don't have to translate anymore. So
that's
please
fine.
continue.
Okay, and I try to be very slow. I try to talk slowly so that you can follow, and I would like to show a lot on the slides so that you also can follow along the slides. And whenever I am too fast, please give me a sign. Give me some notice that I can slow down again. Okay, let's continue with, so I talked about the German and the European market as an open market. No governmentally owned companies, so it's a free market. The governments say that they don't like to have limitations on specific software. We have a strong open source policy. In comparison, if you talk, for example, to Russia, the Russian people have this, or the Russian government has decided to work with Revit, Autodesk Revit. That's very unusual. That's okay for Russian, but the European Union never will do such a limitation to a specific software. This is not really what the current software vendors like. They always like to close their products, but that's how the market is. Now, two other remarks to BIM and the English language. The BIM is a very innovative and dynamic market all over the world, so a dynamic environment. And what we see as Germans is that whenever you follow the market in English language, there is the biggest lever, the biggest source for innovation, for information as well. So I always tell our people, our companies, and our students as well in Germany to look into the English written documents, webinars, and whatever it is, because there is much more information and valuable information than we can do on our own. Now coming to the German impact of BIM on the industry. We have some government initiatives, like development initiatives, pilot projects, and we have some major drivers I will talk about, and some norms and standards. I will show you about the structuring of the standards, and then we will come in this section, in these 30 minutes, to the BIM development and consulting companies, construction companies, and public authorities, but we will also cover this in the second part, the second 30 minutes later. Public body initiatives means that we have only incentives. There is no governmental or national company doing BIM. but the government gives government gives incentives and support for research, for development, and for pilot projects, not more. They never do a pilot project on their own, but they give money to that. And they assure by giving money that this gained knowledge will become public as well. So it's accessible for everybody. And that doesn't mean everybody from Germany, but actually it means everybody in the world. And there are some initiatives. Plan und Bauen 4.0. I will tell you, and I will show you the links where you can get lots of information for that. A national roadmap for BIM and construction, which is not that much open at the moment. And there are the initiatives in federal states, BIM centers of competency in several states, federal states. They are always in charge of private association, but some are supported by public money. So the government tries to initiate initiatives, but they don't pay initiatives for 100%. And we'll talk about Deges and Deutsche Bahn a little bit more in detail later on. This is the initiative Plan und Bauen 4.0, 4.0, and you see here the link, and you can use this link just to get all the information about them, to see what they are doing. And what you see that in order to get support from the government, we had to collect a lot of companies, consulting companies, construction companies like Hochtief, Zyplin, Strabag, consulting companies like BTM, Heberger, IBK, and so on. So it's very, very important to have a cooperation. And what you also see in the market of the German BIM initiatives, that the BIM people talk a lot to each other, no matter whether they belong to this company or that consulting company, they just talk a lot to each other. And this Plan und Bauen 4.0, Plan Bauen 4.0 had developed this step or phase plan, which had been a preparation phase, a pilot phase, and now it's a level 1 for new and planning projects. And that's where you can see this BIM Stufenplan, this also this link, and they list all those advantages, which I don't go into now, which BIM brings with us, like international competitiveness, which is interesting because by doing BIM, any Vietnamese company is internationally competitive and can work in cooperation with other companies worldwide. Consolidation of the German core competencies, a substantial reduction of construction time and cost, and so on and so on. So those 10 points are the objectives, what should be achieved with the Stufenplan, which was intended by this line set up in 2015. I talked a little bit about BIM in the construction, in the construction business, which was a roadmap for national construction works. It's still under construction, this roadmap, because that shows the difficulties in a federal state. The federal construction market is very, very small. It's kind of a small part, and most of the construction parts with public money are done by states, communities, and smaller items, cities, towns. And so the federal government is very, very slow in demanding the use of BIM for states, for cities, for counties. And that's why this is a slow process what to do. You have to look on the investors, they have to look on the development. So the roadmap for national construction works called BIM Futura is really not going further on at the moment. What is very interesting are those pilot projects. And here you see again what I was mentioning already, the two main drivers. One is the Deges, Federal Design Company for Major Roads, that had been established within or shortly after the German reunification, to do big infrastructure projects like big new railway lines and new highway tracks. And you see as well they started with 4 projects which were well documented, and let's just look into one. So that's Deges, and the other big player is the German railway, Deutsche Bahn. They are very close. I mean, the Deutsche Bahn is belonging to the state, but they run it as a almost private company, and so, but they get a lot of support, Deges as well as Deutsche Bahn, because they have big shareholders with the government and with some states. Let's just look into one of those pilot projects. For example, the Petersdorfer Brücke. We will see later on also some more slides. But if you look into this, you see the projects they give. You see how they designed it. It's kind of a steel bridge with a concrete deck. And you see what they did, what they designed. And I would just put your attention to this small link here. You can get this link, and there is a big final report on this bridge, what they did, what kind of BIM they did there. And we won't go into that now at the moment, but that's actually what you can get for all of those projects. The other big player, as I said, is the Deutsche Bahn. Again, Tunnel Rastatt. I will just show you the pictures. This has been on the right-hand side, this has been the Petersdorfer See, the Petersdorf Bridge we just looked into. This is a big valley bridge where you see also the assembly in the model a little bit. And this is another bridge which they did with Deges, I think. And this Rastatt is the bridge, the tunnel which the German railway has done. And I will just show some pictures of the Rastatt tunnel, because there we had also already some advantages, although they are not the best examples. Here you see the bridge, the tunnel, which runs very, very densely along or underneath the existing railroad, kind of an angle of less than 5 or 8 degrees crossing. And actually they had a big failure without any fatalities, but they had a big failure. And that's where they were very lucky to have all those models, because they could go into those analysis very, very fast. What actually happened was that they had a freezing, kind of a freezing ground method, and the freezing, the shield they had to freeze in the soil. The shield was not close, or was not thick enough, and so they had this accident where they had to close the existing railroad and then reopen it after repair. But at the moment when this accident happened, everybody was, in terms of knowing what was going on, knowing what was in the model, everybody was pretty clear about that. So there was still an advantage to have a good pre-documentation by building information modeling. Let's look further into BIM for infra. BIM for infra. If you go into this link, you can get a map of German pilot projects, because there are more than those 4 now. And all those pilot projects from Deutsche Bahn and from Deges are documented, because the government pays for documentation, pays for transparency, and pays for parts. Actually, it pays for the extra effort to share knowledge on those projects. And that's interesting to have a look into that and go into those projects. That's why I gave you a lot of links, and yeah, I think that's very helpful. As well, if you look into more details, then you see that the Deutsche Bahn, the German railroad, as well as the Deges, they are pretty open, showing their standards. So here is, for example, requirements for the application of the BIM methodology. That those clients, Deutsche Bahn and Deges, they are very important clients. They want to jump on the train with building information modeling, and therefore they publish what they require. They publish what should be done. Those are requirements for the application of BIM methodology when companies want to go into to them. And what you see is BIM here, for example, for the Bahn, now a very current development stretch from 15 to 20. They have digital competencies. They do a lot of training within the Deutsche Bahn and within the DGS as well, to learn about how to use building information modeling. And then from 2025, they want to have all the projects done with BIM. The DGS as well. The DGS just started a huge qualification program to make their own people ready for working and just doing with BIM models as normal. Okay, the last thing I would touch here in this first session would be that I tell you a little bit about the hierarchy of the norming, because as I told at the beginning, we keep very close and incorporated within the European Union, although it's a federal agreement. It's a voluntary agreement to stay in the European Union, not as the British people. They just dropped out of the European Union, but we want to stay together, and therefore we want to align our standards. So I would like to start from the bottom here. International standards, ISO, International Organization for Standardization, that's international worldwide standards, and you are free to use them, but they should be very mature. We have on another level the European standards, Comité Européen de Normalisation, that's a French name, European standards, and we have the German standards. But standards means that there are a lot of specialists who try to bring together the maturity of knowledge, even in BIM. This is very difficult in the building information modeling market, because building information modeling is still very dynamic in the development. So there are a lot of things are happening, and a lot of software, a lot of ideas, a lot of new standards. And that's why we are glad to have the guidelines from the industry, the Verein Deutscher Ingenieur, that's the Association for German Engineers. They are faster in bringing out standards. Faster means they don't ask so many people, they just define standards. They ask a lot of people, but it's not the whole society. So the VDI standards are much faster. There are lots of VDI standards, and we try to align them with the European norming. Just on the bottom, I showed you this classification. So there are standards which are only for Germany. They are called DIN or DIN spec. When it's not such a very official thing, DIN spec means kind of a pre-norm. And then there are standards which have a DIN and European norming. So they are valid in Germany, but also in Europe. And when it comes to the international level, you find the BS, British standards, European norm, ISO norm. That means that there is an international norm, which is also European norm and also in British standards. And the same would then be found in norm française, that's French norm, or in the German norming. So whenever you have such an EN ISO norm, you might find them in different countries. And you see, for example, the same norm, information management with BIM, has been agreed on the British market 2018, on the French market also 2018, in Germany was 2019. So that means we have accepted in those countries, we have accepted to take over and to take over the same norm, EN ISO 19650 Part 1. There is another interesting aspect with those international norms. Starting from EN and ISO, you find European norms and ISO norms always in English as well as in French and in German. But I think, as I said at the beginning, those are norms which you will always find in English version. I just show you this overview, you cannot read it, but this shows the family that the ISO people, they have committees, the European norming people have committees, the DIN has committees, and the VDI also. And what we try to do, what we do in those norming groups where I am part of, we try to align those. We don't want to have them make another norm which is contradictory to the DIN or to the SEN norm. And when you look into the next pages, I just made a closer view of that. So, because then we always look at those people working on the VDI 2552, that they correspond, and sometimes we have even the same people in there with the corresponding DIN norm group and with the corresponding SEN norm groups. There's a lot of talking within Europe and also internationally to get the same norming. It's in terms of terms, international standards, exchange of data, data catalogs. It's very, very important to look into international norming or normalization so that we can exchange those standards. This is the second part here in enlargement. I would like to come to the specialty of the German VDI Richtlinien Series 2552, because that's, as I said, it's not so much aligned. They have been very fast from the German Engineering Association, and they also have an interesting version. I always look for things to find in English for you, not in Vietnamese, I'm sorry, but to find information in English. And this is, for example, I just put you everything which is intended. You see there's a draft, but it will come out the draft will come out in 7/2020, and there are others which are already there. 2018 part 5 BIM data management, and we will later look into the part 8.1 in the next session, because also the German VDI Richtlinien, when they are finalized, that means when they are here, they are published. Part 3, Part 5, Part 8.1. As soon as they are published, they will also have an English version. Last, I think it's one of the last organizations which is very important also for our BIM development in Germany as well as worldwide, is the Building Smart organization. And Building Smart is actually what they say. They say that's the benefit for the build asset industry. Open BIM. Building Smart is really the promoter of Open BIM. So whenever you do modeling in one version, you have IFC or have international standards to put your data out of this model and get it into another software. That's actually the main part. And you see when you run through the arguments, interoperability means you can transfer the data, you can use them with different systems, open standards, reliable data exchange, collaboration workflow, flexibility, and that means sustainability by long-term interoperable standards. So Building Smart is also a very, very useful way to look into links there. And they also show, I went to the website, they also show standards for industry foundation classes. That means how do you standardize data management and data and object description, the information delivery model for the BIM collaboration and for model view definition. You see all those with standard libraries and resource libraries as seen here. So again, it shows that it's very useful to really look into the English versions and then get more information about this huge volume of information in the world. I think this is now the last slide. Yeah, but last slide. the BIM, that's just a German specialty that we built a connection between standard book of specifications and building information modeling. So BIM is working on connecting the text-based contracting documents with building information modeling objects and make it automized, so they have a cooperation with the dean and with the standardized book. That's you can look on that how they do it online, but it's really a German-based solution. I would like to I would just like to see. I'd like to make some side remarks at the end of the first session. Norms and standards are really the result of consultation with all interest groups. So that means you just cannot act and make a norm. The benefit and really the added value is if this is agreed by many parties and most of them. And that means that also internationalization, international alignment, and asserting one's own interest is an objective. So we are working on the ISO and European norm standards because we want to present our own interests within this group. We want to make norms which are appropriate for Germany, which are good for Germany, which also respect our advancement. That's why we work with ISO, with EN, and of course with DIN. And I said it already, I repeat, BIM and BIM market is a very dynamic area. That's the reason why actually there's no really finished handbook or finished guideline. We are still in a market where so many new influences are there, so that we shouldn't cut off the development. And there are lots of specification brand solutions, software houses that are very fast in developing, but they are not very compatible to others. So that's really a problem. And if you look into the IFC classification, we see that IFC is respected, but that lots of software don't support all IFC features. And at the end, as I said, the private initiative, and I call this the Verein Deutscher Ingenieure, the Association of German Engineers in Building Smart. They are privately organized association. They have very strong impact. They are not always neutral, but they are pretty fast and very open. And that's why we really look into Building Smart, look into VDI when we want to have the front edge of development in Germany, want to have clear information. We rather look into those standards at the moment as into ISO standards. Well, okay, I think according to the time, I would now make a break and be open for questions.
Is it for question now?
Yeah, I think we should have 10 minutes break and then I do the other part, if you want to. So I will come to the transfer to industry in the next part.
Okay.
If there are questions, otherwise I could continue and then we do all the questions at the end.
Yeah, we should be able to do some question now. So there's Mr. Andrea Trường who are asking about PhD scholarship. You can see it here. Anh Andrea Trường có thể bật mic lên để trao đổi với giáo sư được không ạ?
We have quite a number of BIM research topics, and whenever we do BIM research in Germany, we apply for research funding, then it's actually to fund a PhD person for 3 years, 2 or 3 years. And I just this morning got the message that we have been admitted to the second or to the final round for a big project together with BIM Competence Center in Germany. So hopefully we will get kind of, what is it? There are 3 universities, 2 BIM centers. I think there will be 6 or 8 positions open within the next 3 years when we get this support.
So, okay, can I speak? Hello?
Hello, I can, yeah, I cannot hear.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I hear you.
Yes. Right, as I use, as I you share your experience, now there are 6 to 8 positions are opening. Is right?
Oh, it's. I didn't hear it. I didn't get it. It was very broken.
I want to confirm that you as you said that there are from 6 to 8 positions are opening. I mean the PhD.
Yeah. I think that's where when we get it, we are really in desperate need to find good people to fill those positions. Yes, that will be around October, September, October, I think.
So I will forward my email and then you can forward more detail about it. Is it okay?
Okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you, Rosa.
Có ai có câu hỏi gì với giáo sư về cái nội dung của trình bày không ạ? So I have one question about the pilot projects. You said that they were very well documented, and the government pay for pay some sort of money, so the projects agree to publish their information, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they in these projects do they need to quantify the BIM benefit, like how many time, how many day and how much money was saved by applying BIM in these projects? Do they need to quantify that?
No, I think it's very difficult to quantify, because actually what the government wants with that is that somebody does that we do building information modeling, and the government tries by putting up a bid process. They try to find the right market price for this extra costs. So at the moment, we think that the first BIM project will cost money. The second BIM project will also cost money. But my personal belief is that people who are, or companies who are in BIM processes, they know exactly what the benefits are. And they do BIM. They don't go back from BIM because they know that it's beneficial for them. So it's very difficult because you have a very steep learning curve. In the first project, you do modeling, you do different ways of modeling. I come in the next part to this, how we approach it, because it's really a learning curve. And when you have somebody doing modeling within your company, after the 5th or 6th project, he will just do modeling as writing some notes.
Okay.
As long as it's a small project. If you go for the big open BIM, as you say, you will do a very big project all together with BIM. I think that will break your neck. But there are lots of companies who see the benefits for themselves on a small scale. I come to that again, but I don't have real figures. I just have the convinced people who say, in our company, this is an advantage now. We stick to that.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Có ai có câu hỏi gì thì có thể bật mic ạ. So I think we can start the second part, and then finally we'll have question and answer.
Okay, I just try to get this. I have to get my screen again. Yes. Okay. Okay. Just a moment, I run into that. So now. Yes. Here we have been, and we follow up with the way the companies go.
We couldn't see your.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have to. Do you see it now? Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. The consultants, yeah, consultants, client-driven approach. I just looked through the different participants. Our consultants, bigger consultant companies, they are very, very easygoing. They say if the client demands BIM, then the consultants will deliver BIM. They have no special unit for research and development very often. So, but there are some major players in the market. There are international consulting groups like ARUP, which is very, very active in Germany, and we have a research proposal together with them, and they have developed their own employers' information requirements. So they are already pretty far with that and the BIM execution plan. And they are enjoying these internationally acting possibilities right now. So lots of internationally active consulting companies, they just do BIM because they know that's their advantage. I have worked with a consultant, a project management company from South Africa, which is doing projects in the Arabian countries, but they just have one person traveling back and forth. The others all work on the model, and the others work and control and do the project management work from South Africa. So it's really a big way to be a player amongst the big project in the world. Our consultants voluntarily cooperate with publicly announced pilot projects. That's where we just head on, and we want to be there. So those pilot projects, as I said, they were well visited and well participated by some consultant companies. And they are key consultants for some major private investors. If you look, for example, for BMW, the car manufacturer, they have some key consultants, and BMW says, we want BIM. And then, of course, those key consultants will do BIM. Some even offer training. We just had, I told you, the Deges initiative to train their own staff with BIM. So that's also offered by some consultants who know what to do. So the approach is very simple. They just do because they know they can earn money with it. And as I said, the specialists within the consultants, they form strong informal competence centers. That's what the BIM competence centers in the States are for. There the people meet across the borders of companies or consultants. So the consultants really do what brings money and what is required. For the companies, for the construction companies, I just gave you a little bit about some figures about the size of companies. We have not many companies with 200 and more employees. So not really much. We have, most of companies are having 1 to 19 employees, as you see on the left-hand side. 88% of the construction company have not more than 19 people. And also the number of employees they have. So we have a pretty atomized construction market. And then we have the numbers by housing, commercial and public construction down, which is not important now. So BIM is a marketing issue. In Germany, now it's a marketing issue. Although the market is atomized, the big construction companies invest in BIM divisions. And that doesn't mean that they know to do BIM and that they do BIM in all facets. The big companies have a BIM division and they do nice pilot projects or marketing projects in BIM. They are sometimes working as internal service units, but the rollout of BIM within big companies is pretty difficult. It's still difficult, like the rollout in the government. They have the BIM divisions, and the major market demand for the companies is from the client requirements as the German railroad, automotive production, as I said, with BMW, or chemical plants, where high standards, high security standards are required. And there we know that BIM is really the big solution to work with. And BIM, and when you talk about BIM, big construction companies, as I said, the big construction companies, they started to apply building information modeling not for any projects. They started to apply it for their own turnkey project, because they knew that the highest risk for project has been in turnkey and design and build contracts. And so the companies wanted to know in advance how can they achieve reliable costs. And they found out that BIM modeling, working with an object-oriented model, was an easy way, or was the best way to achieve reliable cost estimates. BIM in public authorities, I just mentioned it as a tough question. It's really difficult because we have decentralized public authorities in the states, in counties, in cities, in smaller towns, and the co-financing with national funds, if you get national funds for bridges or whatever, does not impose use of BIM. So that's really a devil's heel here. We are not very content with the situation there. They pretend lack of awareness, lack of technology, lack of time, lack of training, lack of digitization, lack of interest, and they dispute about legal matters, copyright issues, responsibilities. So as soon as you come to public authorities, there are lots of arguments where they tell you why it doesn't work. It's totally different to the private industry. They just say, if I earn some money with that, if I have some advantages, I just do it. But the public authorities, even now, with the Corona paperless or home office building, they might improve with paperless procedures, but they are looking for binding directive for property rights. So there are a few initiatives, grassroots initiatives, I've called them, the digital building application and building permit. But the young employees, even in authorities and in governmental companies, they just want to do something with BIM. So now they push from the bottom just to apply their good knowledge. Okay, we come to engineering, curricula, and go again to transfer to industry and to small and medium enterprises, and then maybe some practical topics for research at the end. When you look into engineering curricula in Germany, we have actually the best improvement starts with new professorships or new departments. And so that's why some universities of applied sciences have appointed BIM professors. So there are lots of BIM professors. They are really called BIM professor for the next years. I don't know whether this will hold on for many decades, but at the moment it's just the term of the day, BIM professors at University of Applied Sciences. University established chairs or institutes with new names: digitization, computer visualization, intelligent technical design, digital engineering, automation in manufacturing, innovative construction, intelligent maintenance. So just by appointing new professors with new perspectives, we go into this new level. In some universities, BIM is part of curriculum from semester 1 to 6. We have 6 semester bachelor. And we do, for example, cornerstone projects during several semesters on the basis of BIM. So it's just a tool. We just use it as a method and a tool, and the students are going through several semesters of using this method, using these tools. And BIM is part of doing seminars in master programs. Sometimes we look for, or we go for a certified BIM manager. I'll talk about it later. But mostly it's just BIM competency in general. when we do study programs, we have to have them accredited, but there is a big flexibility. So the faculty is free to incorporate new elements into the program at short notice. We can set up BIM modules, or we can set up BIM content within the existing models. So this is what often happens. We just change our individual content of the models. And by changing it, I put a lot of BIM into my courses just by changing the content of existing modules. But actually, the big changes are gained by appointing new young professors. I really admit that that's really a big push. And we like to do cooperation with the young faculty who are really keen to have a new ground to show things and to develop things which are not there anymore, and not yet. We avoid, at universities, we avoid programs which are too specialized. I don't like the BIM manager, but I have to accept that almost 80% of my graduates find a job as a BIM manager. So industry just asks, do you know something about BIM? And then they employ them and say, well, you are now the BIM manager. But actually, still, we need the civil engineering basics. We need programs like computational engineering, and those attract students who are interested in innovative software design. Now we have, with BIM, we have the big chance that even construction engineering and management, we can attract young students who are prone to mathematics and to structural thinking. Okay, I think I won't go too much into these continuous projects. We can have keystones and cornerstone projects. So we just try to be very free and flexible. We don't have a state imposed study program. And even if we had, I would use the flexibility within the modules, within keystone or cornerstone projects, just to play with a new achievement, to play with new tools, to play with BIM. And actually, I tell the students, please play with BIM. We focus much on team projects, because if you put 3 to 5 students in a team and they get the same grade at the end, then they find solutions where I don't have a solution, or even my assistants cannot help. So a team project is very efficient to find new ways and actually to push each other to get better solutions within the team. I always run a small size model. I call it a shoebox, like 8 objects, 4 walls, a slab and a roof and a door and a window. Because with those small shoebox models, you can learn about the effects. What does software do with those models? And then we assign tasks according to the learning process. We have weekly presentations with all the students so that they learn again from each other. We have students about 30 to 35 in a seminar, and they have to present before each other their learning progress in the BIM area, in the BIM world, so that other students can come in and say, well, your problem you show us, we just solved it last week. Or we have the same problem, let's talk about it together, how we can solve it. So this is really a big advantage to have this group dynamic in our curriculum. We have to be aware of what will happen. Traditionally was drawings as build documents drawings, but we will come up, we are now in the transition phase. We have still drawings as contractual requirements. We still have drawings as build documents, but sooner or later we will have the BIM model as the contractual requirement, and we prepare our students to be comfortable with that. There might be some additional drawings still. I think we always need drawings for the people on site. But the BIM model will be the final as-built documentation, and we prepare our students to be ready for this future or final phase. What I don't support is the message from this, or not really support the message from this graph, where you see that in conventional planning, the planning effort is very late in the detailed design and the construction, and with BIM it's just shifted to the front end. I'm pretty convinced that the BIM-based planning will be a curve which is not that high. And in future, when many people are just comfortable with working with models, with manipulating models, with detailing models, I'm very sure that at that time, the planning effort will be less in total. No matter who does the planning effort, but the effort will be less, and we will use this gap. We will use this gap, which then comes, the gap from here to there, maybe. We will use this gap to be better, to make better planning, to make better alternatives, to think about alternatives, to run comparisons and so on. So I'm very convinced that BIM will save time and save effort in the future. Now to the industry. We know that industry has difficulties to take the steps into the BIM world. And that's why we also design projects together with industry. We have the formats like group project with 3 to 6 students assigned to supervisors from the company and from the faculty. And then we have a 15-week work time, which means a workload of 250 hours per student. So we have a really heavy workload where the students do a on-site or a hands-on project with a construction company, and they are also interested in getting this information, getting this and accompanying this combination. We have a company called Town and Country. It's doing individual houses, and they have, I think, for the last 2 or 3 years, we have already done projects with students, and each time they improve their BIM status and are very close to have really an automation in design, development of standard houses, up to checking of sites, which house model can fit on the site. So they are really pushing their own BIM competency, and they have the benefits of these solutions which our students did. Next one, we have special problems. That's like one student workload 300 hours, or the final thesis, bachelor or master, 900 hours, which is also discussed between faculty, external engineers, and the students. So we actually push our students to get out, or mostly we have the contacts, and we say we have a student and he or she could work on this topic. And or we have, of course, we have the final thesis which support our PhD topics. My sloppy saying is that you can do any PhD within our institute, the Bauhaus Management Institute, as long as you do it with building information modeling, because I'm convinced that there is so much to do, even in the next 10 years, which must be developed, which must be opened, which must put together, that it sticks together, that it allows automized processes and so on. Yeah, there are publications about the BIM manager, as I mentioned earlier. There's one which shows the BIM manager here aside at the investor. There's another one, really it's a spider in the net, the BIM manager. And there is a list in this publication of Liebig. They really go for BIM managers and BIM coordinators, BIM modeler and BIM service engineer. I'm convinced that this is only a transitionary state. It's only an intermediate state, because the BIM manager is actually the one who knows how to run the project with BIM tools, which will be the project manager in future. And the BIM coordinator is the one who coordinates the models. We always had project coordinators coordinating the different drawings and plans, And I think those two will merge. The future project coordinator must have the competency to do also BIM coordination. And so on, BIM modeler, project engineer, and the BIM service engineer. We have the hard and software support at the moment, and there we need also some BIM competency. So I'm not really supporting this way of looking. But at the moment, it really works like that. When we have a graduate, he goes into a company or to an investor, then he will be the BIM manager. And very often he will be the BIM manager for the investor, the project manager, and for a contractor at the same time, because only one has the BIM competency. BIM in small and medium enterprises, we do it by, they have difficulties. They have really difficulty because the companies do not know what software to buy. There we have, in big companies, the laptops are locked. They are secured against unauthorized software installation. So small companies and big companies both have problems to enter into, to get into the BIM world, either because it's too expensive or because the company guidelines don't allow to just install open source viewers, BIM viewers, open source. We have the advantage with the cooperation with companies. We have the advantage because we have full education licenses for software. So we can play, we can try out software, we can compare software. And we, of course, we don't have locked computers or locked laptops. We like to run the risk, and we try on our laptops what is possible. And if we have a bug, then it's our problem. Very often we do cooperation with companies where we say, please put an extra laptop, an open laptop for the student on the desk of the student so that he can work with it, that he can test, that he can try open source software without infecting your computer system in the company. Next thing is, young students are much faster and more efficient than professors and their assistants. If it's about finding out how to use software, that's what we also tell the companies. Please let the young students play around and let the young students try out free software apps. Those are the drivers for the changes in the companies. If a boss says, well, I want to get into the BIM world, the best thing is he gets 2 or 3 young people and forms a group just to roll out this BIM world. Some companies recognize this and give those young people a go. I will come back to the VDI, the standardization. I just show you what we do in standardization of BIM basic knowledge. BIM basic knowledge is shown here. This is, for example, one of these VDI Richtlinien, and you see it. I just put it in my presentation this morning, just to show you that this has always a German side, a German part, Bildungsinformation mit Qualifikation, Basiskenntnisse, and an English part. So this has, as soon as the VDIs are finalized, they get this English part. So that's a way we try to push our German industry to respect the huge English market, and that's a way to find information from the German market in English. And this norm 8.1 is, for example, the Building Information Modeling Qualification Fundamental Knowledge, and they just share what should a BIM manager or BIM consultant know as a minimum. As you see, basic knowledge, introduction, current evolving standards, etc., etc. And that's a way. Now I show you those 12 parts. That's a way to standardize the education outside of universities. So for the industry, and that's what we are also talking about with the University of Transport at Ho Chi Minh City, to set up kind of a basic knowledge course for the local industry and local consultants. And I only have I just put out four aspects just to show you what is in there. What we have to cover, the introduction, is just the background, history, definition, the BIM factors, technology, process, human, standards, and data, and so on. So international BIM initiative, that's more about where you find information. Then the object-oriented model structure, that's requirements in terms of performance and memory requirements, model structures, unique identification and classification, that's IFC, for example, integrating of disciplines, content structure, granularity, those levels of detail in geometry and alphanumeric information. And finally, the very important libraries and product catalogs, because we need product catalogs just to do standardization. If you work on an office building, you have so many items, objects which are similar to the last office building that you rather work with product catalogs than doing those objects from scratch again every time. The legal aspects, for example, I just wanted to show you the legal aspects from this part, what we cover then: data protection, data security, copyright liability, BIM and contract law and contract models, where to put it in and how to organize it, approval process, and in conjunction with other methods. Yes, finally, I would like to show you a little bit about our research achievements and research topics, which we do in Germany, or which we have done at my chair during the last 1.5 decades. I already started with a very early playing, actually a playing dissertation. It's a PhD work to specify the as-planned status by interactive modeling on virtual construction sites. And this Mr. Blickling he is nowadays really in virtual construction, showing on a film and on a play how the construction will go. So by just playing it in a virtual environment, we check on the plausibility, we check on the reality, we check on the interactions, on conflicts and all that. And he started in 2000 actually, finished his PhD in 2006 on just working with playing software. At that time, we didn't have too much powerful BIM software, so he went into the playing industry, computer playing, and worked there on that. Then we talked about the process constraints, constraint-based simulation for scheduling. How do you schedule processes according to hard and soft constraints? Or we had a PhD from BIM model to time scheduling. So where you try to generate automatically the construction schedules. And then we have done some work on workspace modeling. And the first really BIM called PhD was for the site installation planning and virtual reality for multi-user. So as a professor for construction engineering and management, I always like to look into the construction processes and have a special focus on that. And this guy, Sebastian Hollermann, after his PhD, he straightly went back to a timber company and set up the whole process from first design to final production in the industrial timber company on building information modeling resources. So he really made the full cycle complete within this special area of timber construction, industrialized timber construction, because he had background from timber work. He had a company interested in new designs and not working on site with any cutting on site or fitting on site. And this company just used the modeling to run the machines, to check everything which had to go on site, the right scheduling, the right sequence, and ended up with really one full cycle of production based on building information modeling. Then we have object hazards, which is really a thing where the safety is concerned. If you have a BIM model, you can play again on the model and look for different safety features, falling through holes, through openings, and so on. That was what Melzler did. Mrs. Chang did some work about 4D scheduling, also with building information modeling. Chang is from Ho Chi Minh City. And then Mr. Nazir, I just forgot to put it here, did a BIM, used the BIM modeling and the augmented reality to educate unskilled workers. As soon as you have the BIM model, you can play with the BIM model, then you can also show the working processes. You can show what has to be done next. And when you have this structuring of what comes first, what comes next, then you can use it to instruct the people on site. And he actually went to an area in Pakistan where they had lots of low-skilled workers and worked with them on the computer, showing them what tasks to be done, what tasks should be done, and trained them. And after, let's say, after 2 hours training, then they went on and did the task. So really prospering work concerning low-skilled worker and building information modeling. What are the main topics? As I said, my motto is you can do any topic as long as it's with BIM, because there's so much to develop and to detect. And when my colleagues from the structural engineering complain that's not science, then I tell them that in the 80s and 90s, there was a finite element method developed, and almost every PhD thesis in structural engineering was something with finite element method. Now I think this is just repeating. Next statement is, there was a statement of Kuhlmann around 1850. He said the language of the engineer is the drawing. I don't believe it anymore, because the modeling, the BIM modeling, the visualization, the rendering, and all other possibilities like working with false colors, working with walkthroughs, doing scheduling, showing different alternatives, that's so powerful nowadays that I think the language of the engineer will be the model. That's actually much more powerful than the drawing, because the drawing is an artificial language, whereas the model can be a real model, looking like reality. And next two things, remembering this. One is the Singapore people who seem to be pretty at the forefront of digitization. They just say they are looking for low-hanging fruit. So they are just looking for what can be easily achieved with BIM. They don't go for the BIM for everything. They just go for digital models where it's appropriate and where they gain some benefit of. So actually look for the benefits of the individual involved, look for the benefits for your company, look for the benefits for your consulting processes, for your consulting design. And finally, when the client is willing, when the other partners are willing also to work on building information modeling, then you will double your benefits, you will have much more benefit, but nobody, no company, no client, no company will start building information modeling when they don't have any benefit of that. Yeah, some research topic, which we do at the moment: building permit process, standardization of employer information requirements, work progress control of earthwork. This means how can you get the actual status and how can you compare this actual status automatically with what should be built at that time. So that's incorporating not only building information modeling and a model, but also in situ laser scan and other ways. This is a work together with the company, with a big earthwork company. So they were really pushing to apply it directly. Then we have site installation simulation for tower cranes. This has been some work for Mr. Lin from somewhere in the middle of Vietnam. Then we have data capturing, data storage, data compression, and data transfer, which my assistant Sebastian Seis is doing. We have noise reduction on construction sites. Noise reduction, that means in Germany we have lots of restrictions, and they now come also to a construction site, and they require us to think about lowering the noise level during construction. That's a mandatory legal issue. And so we look about from the model again to forecast what kind of noise will be there, what kind of noise reduction measurements could be put in place. And finally, there's a work with BIM-induced change process, because that really is a problem for lots of small and medium companies with medium age people, medium age employers. How do they get into the BIM world? And that's what she is working on. Okay, it's all nice. It's lots of work, even in Germany, but we have small springs. We have lots of small areas or areas where lots of BIM is developing. And I think within the next 5 years, we will get this cooperation, we will get this complexity that more and more companies work together with the same model on the same complex model for the same building. Some open questions. The new role of visualization, as I told you, what is the language of the engineer? What is necessary information about a facility and for which purpose? How do you get reliable information from on-site progress? This is really a very difficult step. How can you improve the zooming within the model without loading the whole model, the whole huge data set? Then we are working on BIM for project control. BIM in the built environment is not so far away. If you have already built buildings and you have to remodel and reshape them, nowadays the technology to scan it with photogrammetry or laser scanning to get the model, to get the original model as built, is not is not such a big task as it was in the past. So we really get manageable models from built areas. And then finally, object catalogs, standardization, parameterization, and individual assessment of object catalogs. That's also an open issue. Last slide, my literature. I would point out 3 books or three references. One is the still very, very actual BIM handbook of Sachs and Eastman, which is also available as an ebook, 3rd edition 2018. That actually is not only BIM, it also describes a lot about construction and consulting as well. Then we have a German book, which is very, very good because it really has been edited, I think, in 2016 in German, and now it's available in English as well. Building Information Modeling from Bormann and Koch, and Bormann, Koch, König. Koch is professor in Weimar. König has been an assistant professor in Weimar. Bormann has been assistant in Weimar. So it's really a bunch of people who came out from the Weimar school. And this Liebig I just mentioned because they are looking about the consultants' fee structure with BIM, but I'm not supporting the results so much. And the third one I will just show you again was so first one is Eastman, Sachs, second is Bormann, Koch, König, and the third is this VDI series 2552, where you can get lots of information, which is also in English as soon as those as those documents are finalized in the German version and not in the draft version. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Professor, for very informative presentation. Anh chị nào có câu hỏi hay là có thể là mà đang có đây có thể bật mic lên để giao lưu luôn ạ.
I have a question. Do you have the consultant fee schedule on your laptop there?
Again?
Yeah. Can you show it a little bit about the consultant fee structure you mentioned?
Consultant's fee structure, yeah?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For BIM, right?
Yes.
Yes. Can you show it, please? Please. We have got.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. I could go again on which time? Okay, just a moment. Okay, what is now? I think I have, yeah. You had the fee structure here, I think was it fee structure? Liebig, yeah, it was Liebig. I don't know why it was.
Yes, fee structure.
Yeah, I know it was Liebig, consultant's fee structure, yeah. I'm just looking for which one was it. Let me just see. They did a literature. It's a German Liebig. Let me see. I don't find it that fast, yeah. Liebig. It's also open. Somewhere I have the link for that, but it's also open online. I just open it.
Okay, thanks.
And it's a German report from 2011. Only German, showing what
that's all
kind
right.
of
I just want to see the structure.
Oh no, that's they just say here what I don't think that they have put some. They don't have put some tables on that. They have no tables on that. They just say that we need more money in the first phases, and then the money can be saved in the later phases. But they couldn't. I just ran through it.
No table.
No. I don't think they have any tables. No.
Okay. Any formula?
It's like it's the same approach with Singapore, I think, that they move 5% in upfront. Yeah.
I'm really not supporting it. I think it is still from the thinking that I do my work and you don't get my work, you don't get my result. I think it's really from that part of thinking, because in the new world of building information modeling, you will share your results, and not only your results, you will share your model. But this report has been done in the time where still the architects and consultants thought, well, if I do something which is of value for the other following partners, then I should get a remuneration for it. And I think that's not the right approach. But that's my personal mind, my personal opinion. I know they don't have any real values. It just they are very careful with that. No, we did a master thesis about that. And this student came up with, he just picked values, but I had to say in the defense that he just picked them by talking to a lot of architects and engineers. He didn't ask the clients and he didn't ask the others. Because if you have, I don't think that there's more effort, more costs for the consultants, and if you have less costs for the constructors, construction companies, then this should be proven by better prices. For the client, it should be shown by better prices of the construction companies. But it's really my personal opinion. There are lots of consultants who say we need more money.
Okay, thanks. And another question for my colleagues, do you offer scholarship for PhD students?
Yeah.
You do? You do offer?
Yeah.
Or they have to apply through the DAAD?
What I had in the past, I had 3 students who applied with the Vietnamese government. 3 students. Mr. Chang was one of those from Vietnam. Yeah. So I think the best way is really to apply with DAAD or with the Vietnamese government for funding. Then that's the best way, because otherwise we always run short of people who know German, because we have also some German students who have to be supervised. Yeah.
Have you heard about the DAAD scholarship?
Yes, yes, that is. I don't know, but I don't know whether DAAD or who is the selecting body. Is it the Vietnamese? It's the
the government. I think the German government.
Yeah, but then it's the DAAD.
DAAD.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether you have to apply directly to the DAAD or whether there is a pre-selection by some Vietnamese board. I'm not sure. I got the application directly from the students who wrote me and said, "Would you be able to supervise me?" From the students, yes. And they said, "I get a DAAD scholarship." Yeah. Because
is the condition for getting one of the conditions for getting the DAAD scholarship is to have a professor in a university, except as a PhD student. Okay.
That's what we did. What I did voluntarily, and had some good assistance with this. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Professor, I have a question about. One of the ongoing research that you show in your slide. What is the status of the first one about the digital and BIM-based building permit process?
Yeah.
Like Judith, yeah.
What our approach was the following, or is the following. First of all, we screened what are the processes of the building permit? What are the processes for building permit? What are authorities doing with the permit? You know what you have to bring in. You know what you have to submit, and then the government or the authorities do something with it. And we couldn't find out a unified process, so we had to describe different processes. There are some authorities who say, well, we have one for the external implications, one for the internal, one for the roads, and there are other authorities where say, well, we have one person doing everything and the other person doing everything for another side. So we started with standardizing or with mirroring the different processes within the authorities. And then we found out that authorities don't like BIM. They don't like to get digital documents. And we said, well, if we have the digital model, then we just do what's called emulation. We just emulate as if it would be printed and written. So we took our model, we put every information into the model, somewhere into the model, which was needed later on for the building application, and then we wrote codes to get from the model, to get all the formulas, to get the right forms, as if it would have been done by hand. So that the people and the authorities, they don't know about our BIM background. And other people, we talked with people from the authorities, for example, in Hamburg, and he said, well, that's nice. If somebody doesn't want to work with BIM in your authority, then he gets the normal paper things, and he doesn't know that in the background, all this paper has been automatically produced. But if somebody is there who who likes to work with BIM and likes to get a faster approach to the building, then he can get the model. And we still haven't decided whether the model is the binding, the model is the binding document, or whether the printed documents from the model are the binding documents. But it's an approach to, we started it, I think 25 years ago, we started it with the construction diary. You know, when you write a construction diary, there are clients who want to have it handwritten. They just don't accept it. Online on a computer. And what we did at that time, we just said, well, then we write a construction diary with a type letter which looks like handwritten.
Yeah.
And so it's actually the same approach. 25 years later, we have to come close to the people. We have to get to pick up the people where they are.
Yep. So when will that research finish?
That is, she's now in the final phase. I think it will be at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. There was a kind of small interruption with getting a baby.
Okay. In her research, did she also review what they are doing in Singapore? With,
yeah. You know what is going on in Singapore is I asked the people in Singapore when we had a congress, and I asked them, what is the final documentation? What is in your files from those buildings? And they said, of course, printed material. So so it's the same. We have to make sure that the review process can be done on the model. And there's another, for example, now we had a project, but then I found out that the company is doing it already. The company Obermeier, they set up an office for the authorities. So they have a big project, and they set up an office room or two with big screen, with big computer, and all that. And then the authorities are invited to use these rooms on site to do their checking, to do their controlling of the drawings, of the specifications, to do that module based. But you know, the authorities, they have a small screen, they have no big computer, they have no place in the office, so they just furnished this office for the authorities as part of the construction costs. And I think that's also a solution to cooperate with the authorities and say, well, you get, or we bring you our office. Either you come to the site, or you give us a parking lot where we can set up a container with everything you need to play in the same game, to play in the same model-based evaluation process.
Okay, thank you. On Slido, there's some question. One of them is, could you explain the difference between DIN and VDI? Now that VDI 2552. That DINs have you know, the same kind for being.
VDI is totally private. I mean, that's just the initiative of the Association of German Engineers, and the DIN has the official go ahead to do standardization, and it's a concurrent situation between both. But when we established the DIN committee on BIM, we made sure that we have many persons identically in both committees. So if you don't pay attention, you can get two different standards. But our approach is just getting enough people from both sides. So in the end, when there will be a DIN norm, then it will be very, very close to the VDI. But actually, what the DIN group is doing, we have rather to do to cooperate and interact with the European and ISO people, because there's for example, there's a standard from Austria, and the Austrian people want to have their standard as European norm. There have been approaches from United Kingdom, and the British people want to have their standard as a norm. It's the easiest way. You get your norm, and it's all over the world. It's your norm.
Yep.
But we have to compromise, and the Dean people are more on the way to find compromises which also respect our interest than really doing their own norm.
Okay, thank you.
And VDR is more helpful. You can say it like that. If you look for really good information, look for VDI.
Mm. I went to the website, but I think that you need to be a member in order to find the document, right?
Yeah. And even I am a member, but I don't get all documents for free. I got some in the library. So that's always the thing. Our library has access to DIN, has access to all VDI norms, but as long as they are drafts, we don't get them. I just got one draft 10 days ago when I prepared for this session. But we also, the free market, we have to pay.
Yep. Có anh chị nào muốn đặt câu hỏi với lại giáo sư không ạ? Nếu không thì em sẽ tiếp tục hỏi giáo sư các cái câu hỏi mà đã ở trên đã hỏi ở trên Slido ạ. So I'm gonna share the screen from Slido. So this question, I think that I have asked this question. You have evaluation criteria for BIM benefit from impact projects?
No, I think the best criterion is that the people who have started BIM have never stopped working with BIM. We had, I give you just a small example. There were years ago, we had a small company like Halfen. That's companies who do this fixing, so steel fixings in the buildings. And they said they are also always concerned about the facade. And they started to model only the facade. So going around the facade, they wanted to model it because then they could place their own model, their own objects in this model. They were much faster in calculating, recalculating, redesign, and all that. And they said, that's our business. That was a company from the Netherlands. And they said at that time, like 8 years ago, they got 1/3, they got models from the architects in the Netherlands, so they can use the models. 1/3, they decided to make their own facade model because it was much faster. And the last third, they kept on paper. So companies who start with BIM, they don't do everything with BIM, but they know exactly where the benefits are for them.
Okay. And there's a question about building permit again. So now in Germany, do you have BIM-based building permit process?
Not yet. No.
Not yet.
No. We have a research task. At the moment, it's digital PDFs. That's all you can get, but not really a building permit standard because there are too many authorities who just don't know how to use it.
Okay. And how about BIM manager? Is there something company recruit people to work as BIM manager, but then in the industry, is there any like a certification that
yes,
for these people?
Yeah, the VDI 8.2 is not yet published. It's not yet drafted. That's BIM professional, but there's no standard. The only standard we have is this BIM basic knowledge. And BIM basic knowledge is good for people who know that they have to go into BIM. When it comes to BIM modeling and BIM augmented reality, for example, then there is no standard and you have to look what you need. We have a project developer company which really went into BIM convincing the future owners. they wanted to have the models to play around with alternatives, and so they use BIM to have security about costs and to convince the future owners.
Thank you.
Or,
It's that question again here. As you can see,
yeah, no.
is there a title BIM engineer now in Germany, and is the salary lower than construction engineer?
No, no. At the moment, we still have a shortage of construction engineers. So BIM engineers, they are always construction engineers. That's why we don't award a BIM diploma. We just say it's an engineer. He or she is a full scale engineer with specialty BIM. No differences.
Mm-hmm. We have another question about the roadmap. You know, with the BIM-based building permit process. Mm-hmm. Is there any timeline that in the future, you know, you need to submit model instead of drawing?
No, that's the BIM Future issue, where the national government cannot impose any standards because they have not the right to impose standards for the states. It's state issue. Okay. And we have some states like the state of Hamburg, because that's one of the 16 states. The state of Hamburg is very innovative there, and they try to push forward for their building permits, but there is no legal entity which can say you have to do it here or there.
Okay, so now the state of Hamburg can, you know, if you do construction in Hamburg, you can submit model.
Yeah, they have some pilot project. They had. I'm not aware of the actual situation, but they had a 4, 5, 6 year development to pilot this. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So we have 2 questions from Sơn. Sơn ơi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, the postdoc positions.
Yes.
There are always open positions. I know that many universities internationally publish internationally. They publish at least nationally. We have to advertise any open position for postdoc positions. So they really have to look into the different even the different universities, whether there's an open position or not. Mandatory is very good English, I think, but even German is not mandatory with a lot of positions.
Yeah, because I don't know about the education system in German for the researcher, but in order to apply, is there any postdoc course or job for 1 year?
That most of the time when we are looking for postdocs who can support our doctoral candidates, who can give some lectures in German most of the time. But every once in a while, like for example, Technical University Munich is advancing. They try to do everything in English, and there are other universities. We have some courses which are taught in English. So every once in a while, there might be a postdoc position. Mostly we look for people who are longer employed for a longer time, like going for an habilitation. For 1 year, it's always a question of getting an exchange, maybe an exchange with DAAD.
I see.
Yeah, but why not asking DAAD for that? Because also postdoc is also a position of additional qualification.
Okay, thank you for just sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Professor, there's a question about the barrier. What is the main barrier when company and projects implement BIM in Germany, and how to break it?
I think the main, we feel that the main barrier is just that people are afraid of losing their own field of competence. So when they go into BIM, they are learners, and they don't know how to do it and what to learn. And then an excuse is, for example, that we still need all the construction experience. And there are BIM people, like the BIM managers, who don't know how to do construction. So what is the benefit if you only know BIM, but you don't know the construction? That's also a barrier. But on the other hand, in private, I think there's there's no restriction to hardware, to software, no restriction to doing it with BIM. It's just, you have to show that it is more efficient than doing it without BIM. When it comes to public sector, they need more initiatives. But for example, this semi-public railway company, they really propagate that they want to do big project with BIM, and they force it. They force to get it with BIM. And still then, let me just come back to one of those 4 pilot projects. There was this pilot project, Filztalbrücke, bridge about Big Valley. And the adjacent tunnel was done with BIM. And they said, well, we can do also the tunnel with BIM in the pilot project. And then the DEGE said, oh no, we don't want to have this because our BIM project is only about the bridge. So even when piloting BIMs, that doesn't mean that every aspect is done with BIM.
Mm-hmm.
But it's difficult to say. I think since 2 years, it really takes up in Germany. Lots of companies, I get lots of questions whether we can help a company here or a company there, how we can get more BIM people into the industry. So we just offer to help, offer to make cooperations, and companies know that they have to get on that boat.
Okay, thank you. And if if a small company in in your presentation, you said that a young student are very fast. So if a company want to move ahead with BIM, just let them play with BIM tool. So what is the suggestion or advice that you can give to a company in Vietnam who want to implement BIM for their projects?
Yeah, I think the suggestion is for a company to find out by discussion and maybe by consulting with other colleagues and so, what are the benefits you want to get from that? Mm-hmm. What are the benefits you want to get by thinking in models? That's the first priority. We had a small company in earthworks who just wanted to be faster with the final bill. Mm-hmm. and getting it reliable, the billing. And so they started a BIM project modeling the whole site only for getting the final measurements, because they know that the final measurements were reliable. They didn't forget anything. They could see it by visualization whether they had forgotten anything. And actually, my first PhD candidate, the one who played with gaming, the Blickling, Arno Blickling, he has earned a lot. He was 2006, and since then he has earned a lot of money by claim management, just doing it with modeling. Mm-hmm. So go back to the company. Just ask the company what are your most difficult tasks where BIM could be used, and then get 1, 2, 3 students to just try it on a project. Work it once time, you work it behind. The next time you work it in parallel to the actual work, and the next time they can be ahead with the model and just help the company to have the benefits. We very often work with students who get paid by 10 hours work time per week. Mm-hmm. So it's just an additional job for them, but they are very enthusiastic to get good results, good review for the new technology. Mm-hmm. And that's about, if you talk about salary, it's 25% of a month salary for a student is not that much.
Yep.
And if it's not the right student, we have this classification of working student. If it's not the right student, then you can dismiss him and just try the next one.
Okay. That's very good. Thank you.
But I have another advice. If you don't have in your company, you don't have one person who is really interested in learning in parallel and watch and get what the student knows and take it over. If you don't have this person, then the knowledge is gone again. That can be one young engineer. We had one very, very small company where the junior chef was, he had learned BIM with us, and he's very much interested in getting that into this company. And so he employs this once in a while to get to have more progress.
Thank you. And there's a question about current level of BIM maturity in Germany, especially in public sector and private sector.
Yes, I don't like those statistics, because if you ask the people whether they do BIM, then everybody pretends to do BIM. Yeah. I just let other people, the economists, do those statistics. I'm not very good at that. I always see the good sides and the shady sides.
So yes. Dạ, anh Nam có câu hỏi ạ.
Yes, actually, thanks a lot for the very interesting presentation. I had just one question with regards to one of the slides you had previously. You mentioned that there are different levels of the BIM application. I don't really remember exactly how many levels, but is somehow in level 6 or level 7. You mentioned that Germany had just about to start. I think it's more on asset management, if I'm understand correctly. So can you please explain a little bit further on that part, like asset management together with the BMI application in the line for the future in Germany?
Oh, again, can you just help me a little bit again with those levels? Yeah.
Yeah, my question is, you mentioned that level 6 or level 7 of the BIM is on asset management, and Germany had just about to start that process. So this means that the current level of application in Germany is level 6, if I understand correctly. So
I haven't seen the levels.
No, it's more like the VDI 2552. Cái đấy không phải là level anh Nam ạ, cái đấy là các cái phần. So I think it's not a level of BIM, but it's more levels, like a part of a document. Đấy là trong tài liệu của cái hiệp hội kỹ sư ở Đức họ có viết, thì ví dụ phần 1 là về cơ bản về BIM, phần 2 là các cái thuật ngữ và định nghĩa, xong rồi là đến phần 6 thì là về quản lý vận hành anh ạ.
How do you think about asset management? How do you think about the application of the BIM in asset management?
We try to show benefits by that. As I said, we have cooperation with a project developer who has assets as well as he's doing new projects, and he wants to know. At the moment, he's interested much more into in the development stage, because that's the highest risk. In asset management, we have done a number of master theses, but still I don't see. No, what is needed is that you exactly define what kind of asset management you want to do, what kind of information you need. We have, for example, a company, Goldbeck, who's running their own parking houses. Parking lots, high-rise parking lots, and they know exactly what they want to know afterwards, because they operate it, and so they have much more interest on information than if you are an investor and you want to sell the asset later on. then sometimes they really don't want to know so much information, because whatever they know, they have to pass to the next buyer. So it's a very biased situation. And the question is also, do you have the current information, and who is maintaining the model? Sometimes you maintain the model because you have a remote, I don't know, let's say in Vietnam, you are a company in Hanoi, and you have some remote property in Da Nang or in Hue or here in Ho Chi Minh City. And you want to operate this remote facility from home. Then you want to know what kind of locks are built in, what kind of doors, etc. Because if somebody calls you and says it's broken, then you want to make sure that you get the right spare part. But this is actually not very often. We have a company who is looking for that, to know from far distance exactly what is in the model for operation. But there are not too many.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that operational part. But I see that actually is a trend now in developed countries like Germany and Netherlands. Yeah. Many consultants start to work with a very big private sector on that part. So I think thanks anyway.
Yeah, but you have to be very careful whether the information is really valuable or not. So very often you need a big grid. I'm in favor of having a big grid, so that you have a big model and you can put all the partial models in that, so that they are manageable. Partial models, put them together, because if you have, for example, an elevator maintenance company, you want this elevator maintenance company to have the current model for the elevator. They don't need anything else. So you want to get it to them, and you also want to get it back from them. If they change something, you want to have the update of the model from them. And this is a chain which is not really holding up at the moment.
It's a level of the component, how to aggregate and also categorize all the asset component in the lines. Why BIM is maybe focused on the part, but asset measurement or into the breaking into components. It's to observe, monitor easy.
Just start by defining what is the information you want to have, and if this is really well defined, then you can put that information into the model, but not everything.
Thanks.
Có anh chị nào có câu hỏi thì có thể bật mic lên để hỏi giáo sư ạ.
Yes, I'm not sure if anyone asked the question before, but from the Germany government, do you have any plan or the strategy or and the development policies to accelerate the BIM application in the construction industry in Germany?
Yes, we have. There was this commission about large projects, which I think submitted their report 6 years ago, where the government found out that big projects like the Berlin airport and the Hamburg Elbphilharmonie, which really ran out of costs, that they would have run better if there had been some other measures, for example, digital modeling. And that's why they know that digital modeling and building information modeling is a good tool to get more money for the taxpayers. And that's why they support these initiatives like Plan Bauen 4.0, and why they support the initiatives like the pilot project with Bahn and Deges, because by spreading good work, the lenders, the states start also with pilot projects, and I showed you the graph, the map where you can click on the pilot projects. So it's an indirect initiative. It's not state law that says you have to do this or that, because the government is always concerned about small and medium companies which cannot afford the shift to the new age.
So like I understand that even in the Germany, the government still a little bit worry about the ability of the company to apply BIM, right?
Yeah, and we have a lot of small consulting companies as well.
Yeah,
I think so. Sometimes it's a 3-4 people consulting company, which is doing a good job, but they just don't have the resources, and they are in the age of 55 and think, well, we will do our job till 65. We don't have to change, and they don't want to get all those out of the market.
Because like if we would like to try to accelerate the BIM application in Vietnam, so I think it could be good if after this session we can send you email and ask you for more about the report that you just mentioned and some other pilot project information.
Yeah,
thank you.
And you should also identify, I think what you should do is identify really some kind of pilot projects where you say, well, this is a big project in the focus of publicity, and there we could do some part of BIM, just to show that even this big project is concerned about making a better job.
Yeah, and another question related to the pilot projects is that if we are having some pilot projects, but like it is not the big one, but any recommendation on the monitoring and setup or the assessment for a pilot project from your experience and from the Germany?
Yeah, you can. I can give you any advice I have, and also get you maybe more links, connections to other people. Because when it comes to a pilot project, it's a pilot about a bridge, about a tunnel, about a railroad, about, I don't know, an intersection. So when you have this, then and the client is willing to do that, then it's much easier to match the experience with similar projects.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Just give me a notice.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Có ai có câu hỏi gì nữa không ạ? Thank you very much for your presentation and for your time to have such a good presentation and a lot of information about BIM in Germany. I think that now is also we passed 2 hours. So thank you very much for that, and we hope to see you again in another webinar.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And whoever has questions, just give me an email. Yeah, thanks to everybody to listening. Okay, thanks. See you again. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.